Welcome to Yes Also. I'm Susie Barrett. My guest today is truly one of the improv geniuses of our time, Jacob Wysocki. A lot of you know him from his work on Dropout, on shows like Very Important People and Dimension 20. And on the LA improv scene, he's a member of the beloved improv team Yeti and a star of the show Whose Line Is It Anywho, his short-form extravaganza that he puts up at the Elysian Theater. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. You'll see the many, many sides of Wysocki, including what a sweet and soulful person he is. He's just the best. And if you want more of this, guess what? You can get it. There is an extra 30-minute conversation that we had all about his work on Dropout, Dimension 20, his recent touring show, and you can get instant access to that by becoming a subscriber at yesalso.supercast.com. And we got the video footage of this and our other interviews over on YouTube, and if you subscribe to us there, it's free for you, and it'll make a big difference for us. Okay, without further ado, let's go to Jacob Wysocki. Jacob Wysocki.
What's up?
You're a legend. You're a good friend. You're one of my favorite improvisers. I'm so stoked that you're here.
It's a treat to be here. I'm a fan of the pod. I think I was literally just talking last night. I think what you're doing is great work.
Oh, thanks.
I'm learning a lot, and there's like a historical part of this that I think is really important and cool. Some archival energy.
Yeah, it's like an organically building oral history.
Yes.
That feels a little bit like an extended mushroom trip journey through all of my lifelong passion and pastime. Yeah.
And I think if you sat down and were like, I'm going to archive the history of improv, it would be so lame.
Yeah.
But that it's happening organically is really cool.
It's fun. And I'm learning a lot.
Mm-hmm.
To me, this feels like grad school or something.
Sure.
Yeah, just hearing how different brains process scenes or approach shows or learn. And yeah. Let's start. Do you want to start at the beginning of your improv journey?
Yeah.
Or do you want? Yeah.
We can do that. That makes the most sense.
That makes the most sense.
think,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're a short form guy originally,
I
right?
come from the old world of short form, yeah. What's funny, I was thinking about this because I knew I was coming, so I was doing a little bit of self-research. And this is now my 20th year of doing improv,
Wow.
which feels insane.
Yeah.
Feels really insane to say that it's been that long.
There's a weird tipping point where, like, the first 5 years feels like you're doing it for, like, it's taking so long.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden one day you look back and it's like, it's been 15?
You're like,
It's
oh
been
my
20?
gosh.
Yeah.
So I started in high school. I was very, fortunate and lucky to stumble into improv at a very young age. I went to a school that had a small performing arts sector. It was a normal, shitty LAUSD school, but there was this little beacon of shiny hope that I applied to be a part of and got in my freshman year, but I went in for music. So I was doing marching band.
Amazing.
Playing the tuba, not the instrument that I picked.
Fuck yes.
I wanted to be on the drum line because of Nick Cannon's drum line, and I didn't get there, so I was in an environment where I was like just kind of doing it because I was told to do it, and I was always told by these people. So the band meets like in the summer before freshman year. So I was meeting these people, and we were hanging out, and you're like practicing all day. And everybody kept going like, you're really funny. You should try out for Comedy Sportz. Words that meant nothing to me at the time. And I was like, what's that? And they're like, oh, it's like the improv team at school. And I was like, also words that I've never heard of before. And it was a thing that like a couple of people were like, you should do Comedy Sportz. You should do Comedy Sportz. And I was just a guy cracking wise with a tuba.
Making your own sound effects.
Yeah. I was really funny. I was really funny on the tuba. Really using it. But so school started, and you had to do a rotating curriculum if you're in the performing arts aspect. So you did like a unit in tech, a unit in dance, a unit in drama.
Like what my college theater degree was.
Yes.
And you got to do that in high school.
I got to do this first year in high school.
My God.
And it was designed to be like, well, where do you want to place yourself in the arts?
Yeah.
Are you a photography kid? Are you a tech kid? Are you a dance kid? Are you a singer kid?
Are you a muffin baker?
Yeah. So I really liked the drama part of it. And this is a very vivid memory. I was not allowed to do Comedy Sportz per the request of the band man. And I notoriously don't like to be told what to do. And I was like, well, that sucks. I can't do both.
He was interjecting because he was like, it'll take your focus away from the tuba,
Yes,
and we need you here. Yeah.
Yeah, like we can't lose tuba for an hour after school.
Yeah.
Even though you're going to be here for everything else. And I had made a nice connection in the drama world with the teacher, and I was walking back with my tuba, and it was Comedy Sportz auditions. And I was like gonna just like put my tuba away and like get picked up and call my folks or whatever. And the drama teacher, Kiki Infante, I'll never forget. I was walking back and she's like, come do this. And I did. And I auditioned and I made the team. And I just made it work.
Yeah.
And I like quickly quit band. You know, I had to do 2 years because there was like weird performing arts school bullshit where it's like the credits and stuff like that. So I had to do 2 years of band, but as soon as I did that, like, first class or, like, first experience with Comedy Sportz, having only seen Whose Line, like, my brain clicked in a way that it had never clicked. I, like, was making people laugh. It was controlled, and it just made sense to me.
Yeah, those short form guardrails where it's like my mission for this scene is just to once in a while break into a Shakespeare monologue.
Yeah, or make a new choice. So
Right.
I was like, well, yeah, I have 1,000 thoughts.
Sure.
I can do that. And so I just felt like it was just this thing that like I literally got pulled in by other forces.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like when I look back on it, it's like, yeah, it was sort of like undeniable that this is what I was going to end up doing. It was like so many things were pointing me there.
It's pretty, it's almost spiritual.
Sure.
Like if you believe in any sort of that unseen dimensions of any type, like it's like it feels like a golden carpet unrolling to meet you where you were stepping and going like, do you want to keep walking off road like that, or do you want to walk on this golden rug into this palace of joy?
Exactly. And I think about the alternate universe of being like a tuba player and going to USC and trying music and like, what is that? Who's that Jacob?
Yeah.
But it was like, no, and the pull was so clear and obvious when I look back at it.
Yeah.
At the time, I was just like, this is fun. This is exciting. Sure. I'm learning a lot. I'm meeting friends, and that's good enough. But if I like looking where I'm at now with my improv life, and I look back at like a 14-year-old who's just enjoying it for the first time, it's like never would have imagined that.
Yeah.
Like now you're going to talk about it for an hour with your friends.
Right.
You know?
Well, and get paid to go on tour with it and be on TV with it. And what a cool explosion of your destiny or calling or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Do you keep in touch with Kiki Infante?
You know, I'm really close with her brother, who is more my age of a peer.
Coco?
Tony. I talk to them every once in a while, and I try and keep up. And, you know, that's one of those things where it's like, I should probably, like, participate more in that, like, backlog of community. I was just talking about that with Beardsley, where it's like, how much do you go back and influence the community that you came from?
Yeah.
How much of it is genuine versus, like, am I just serving myself? Like,
am I being performative and feeling like a hero? Versus...
And I'm also like troubled with telling kids to go to do this.
Right.
I don't think I would recommend anybody to try and do this.
Right.
Unless you're a psycho, you know, like unless it's, and when I say psycho, it's just the only thing that you can imagine yourself doing.
Right. You mean to do it for a career?
Yes. Yeah. If you want to do it for fun and like have a new experience and find a realm to meet people, it's awesome for that. But I don't think I'd ever recommend it. Would feel weird to go to a high school and have kids be like, well, how do I do what you do? Like, how do I put myself in the same position? And it's just like, it's so hard to encourage that,
right?
You know,
and in a way, like you want the resistance of life to select for the people who are doggedly passionate in a way that's like, I don't have another choice. You don't want to like build a bridge for anyone to do it because that's leading some kids to slaughter. Little bit. It's like if you don't have the absolute blind passion and some sort of talent or proclivity, then you're going to get eaten alive and it's going to be a disaster.
I would hate to put that on anybody or whatever.
Right. No, I understand. I was just wondering about the Kiki thing because it's like there's certain people have told stories on this pod about like the one person who cleaved their destiny into like the new direction, and like I think it's cool when those people can know, like,
Yeah.
no doubt, like they know that you have succeeded at this
Yes.
now. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. That's cool.
I think I'm going to make a mindful effort. That's a nice thing to hear. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Because I should. I know that they know, but I've never been like, hey, like I get to go on tour because you told me to do this thing on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
You know?
I was just telling this story the other day. I've been on a couple rafting trips in the Grand Canyon.
Awesome.
The best. And the first time I did it, you know, you spend the whole first day just like your jaw is dropped. You're like in the majesty of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Just it's incredible, and you're looking at all these rock walls approaching you down the river. And at one point, I had to like adjust my life vest or something, and I kind of like turned around and accidentally looked behind us, and it was just as stunning but totally different, and like different colors and a different view. Same way as like when you walk home on a different side of the street,
Sure.
just being on the other side looks different. And immediately, like the metaphor struck my heart, and I was like, God, Susie, the lesson is don't forget to look back at where you came from.
Yeah.
The view is just as beautiful, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, things like this are cool where you have some distance and you go like, whoa, yeah, I was just a kid with a tuba and I didn't know it. And now like, here I am. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. That's amazing. Thank you for putting my head there. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for putting my head there.
Yeah. But so I did that heavily in high school. I did 4 years, and I did it through a company called Comedy Sportz that.
And they had a team at your school. Like,
so they had essentially a high school league program, and so people who were in the main company or the Sunday company. So there was a college team, a Sunday company, and a main company at Comedy Sportz. The Sunday and main company people would essentially get dispersed to different high schools throughout Southern California and would teach Comedy Sportz to high schoolers, and then high schoolers would go to different high schools and do Comedy Sportz matches.
How amazing.
So Narbonne High School would go to Torrance High School, and you'd play, and you'd get reffed by a professional improviser, and then they would do notes and all that stuff after the show.
What an incredible gift. Where was Narbonne High School?
Narbonne High School was in South Bay and Harbor City, California. Yeah.
Okay. South Bay is north of here?
South Bay is like it's not the Bay Area. South Bay is like south of LAX, north of Orange County.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. When you started doing this, so you said like right away it clicked and it made sense in your brain. Did you like... Did that start like planting a seed of like, oh, I want to keep chasing this and do this like for my life journey? Or was it just something fun that you were doing in high school?
It was purely fun. It was purely extracurricular. I think being from Southern California, especially the South Bay, it's pretty disconnected from the industry. And your best career path is like being a longshoreman, if your uncle is. So aspirations were really different down there. And nobody really wanted to be an actor. Everybody just wanted to like surf and get high and chill.
Yeah.
And I was just like always imagined myself like being a teacher or like, you know, working at the same airport my parents worked at or whatever. It was never part of the goal. It was never a dream. If anything, it was like sort of like, yeah, you don't do the Hollywood thing. You're here. You just do the South Bay, like get a job,
Hollywood
get educated.
Is 30 full minutes away.
Yeah, well, but that's the thing is you were close enough to be like, it's crazy. Those are for the for the kooks and the weirdos.
Right.
We're just normal people who live in LA.
Right.
So it was never attractive. I loved watching movies and TV and stuff, but I never like watched SNL and was like, I got to be that guy.
Yeah.
I was just like, thank God this is funny and I'm having a good time. So I just like was doing it and it was fun. And like, I, graduated high school and joined the college team program through Comedy Sportz, but that was still purely extracurricular. And I was going to community college, like being an English major with a philosophy minor. And I was like, yeah, I'm just doing this thing for fun.
Yeah. And the plan, the concrete plan was get a degree and then teach English or high school or whatever.
Something like that. And just like, or like, I don't know, become an academic or like become the next Socrates and write a book about how people think or something. Like, I wasn't really sure. It was just kind of like, I was not great at school. I was great at like being a fun person to be around and like cutting corners.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, college, you can't really like schmooze your way into an A.
Right.
You know?
Especially community college. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just trying to figure it out, and I was just taking these classes and was like, I'll transfer to UCLA. I'll transfer to some other school that's close to LA where I can still live at home, and we'll see what happens.
So where did the next door appear that led you into the life that you live now?
So I was doing the college team, which was like, it was awesome. It's essentially like 18 to 24-year-olds. It was a fucking party. It was like so frat sorority.
Animal House for funny people.
Yeah, and it was just like we were all weird, but because everybody was weird, nobody was weird, which is the like why improv school, I think. It's just a bunch of weirdos who make each other feel normal, you know? But I was doing that and going to school at the same time, and I was approached by this woman who was like, I am helping develop a TV show, and I'm working with these writers and a casting director, and I saw you and your friend Ari Stidham in a show, and I think you guys would be really good for the show that I'm developing. And it was this show on ABC Family, short-lived, definitely before its time, called Huge, about a bunch of kids at a fat camp.
Oh, wow.
Nikki Blonsky, Haley Hasselhoff, a lot of cool kids. So I auditioned for the show, was auditioning for some Alistair guy or whatever, and did not get the part, but they ended up writing a part for me to be in the show. So whatever I did in that audition, they really liked my energy, they really liked my jokes and my riffs, and so I did that show, and I had to drop out of school.
Wow.
And I tried to stay in college while I was shooting this TV show, but I had no idea what Hollywood was. Like, my only exposures to Hollywood at that point were DIY. It was like me doing a student film with my close, intimate friends out of UCLA, or making videos for fun with my friends at home.
Yeah.
You know?
Once again, this is like a motif. Like the tractor beam found you, and you were like, okay, sure. And now you find yourself on an ABC Family TV show.
Yeah.
Like, that's so cool and wild.
I just trusted the fall and was like, it seemed really cool, and it wasn't like making fun of fat people, and it was like celebrating and like talking about real things that I felt like I went through, that wasn't just like, the candy bar and big gulp in a frame.
I can't stop eating.
Yeah. It was like, it was earnest.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's what you mean by it was ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I feel like we're still trying to like break out of the shackles of that weird, that joke, or that it's not even a joke, but people think it,
Yeah. It's just, I think what's just the stereotype or whatever you want to say. Yeah. But,
and, oh, did you want to say more on that?
No.
Was the experience overall fun and positive? Was it like inspiring in any way? Did it plant a new seed in you?
So, like my parents were really supportive, but it was always like, and you'll go back to school. You'll go back to school. When this is done, you'll go back to school. And I was down. It was a really good process, and I learned a lot. I feel like more than anything, I learned how to not act.
Oh, yeah.
Like I got to see like people who call themselves professionals not be professional at all. And I got to see people with like a lot of money act like a producer with a lot of money, and how that's schmarmy. And like, I also got to see how like real creators with a vision get to be and influence a thing, and if you're present and you're there. So it was a big learning experience, but it was still like, well, I'm not an actor. I'm just funny at improv. I've done a lot of improv. I had a good audition. I got to do this thing, and
I brought my personality to set with me, and we had a good ride.
Yeah, and you know, my name's Jacob Wysocki. I'm playing a character named Piznarski. Like it's like, it's just that, and I kind of was just like, yeah, I guess I'll just go back to school and I'll keep doing Comedy Sportz or whatever. But right before that show ended, I like got an audition for this movie and ended up doing the movie, and that's where it all changed for me. And I was like, it was a movie called Terry with this amazing director named Azazel Jacobs, and he was just like an artist and a filmmaker, and he was quiet, and he like read books and liked The Clash, and like had this thing and this big brain and this vision, and I just got to like work across with John C. Reilly, and I was like, yeah, I want to make
Wow.
movies for the rest of my life.
Wow.
This is the most amazing thing in my. I'm waking up in some house with a bunch of producers in Silver Lake. It felt like a fever dream. It felt unreal.
Yeah.
And I did this thing, and I like fell in love with making movies and being a character and like finding it and working it and workshopping scenes and like I just was like, oh, this is it.
Yeah.
This is what my life's gonna be. I'm gonna work as hard as I can to do this for as much as I can.
Yeah. And find myself in the presence of geniuses and different types of brilliance in this grand collaboration where the whole aim is to illuminate life and make people laugh and make people think. And how beautiful.
And it was, it was true indie filmmaking. It was
Yeah.
true, like just people who believed in the people making it. They found the money and they found the guys, and I don't know, there's something about it.
When you said wake up in a house in Silver Lake, were you all sleeping in a house for
Yeah,
the
because
production?
Yeah, I mean, I stayed in Lomita as long as I could and just saved my money and just like lived with supportive parents. And so when the movie came around, I was only 20.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, you're going to be shooting like 12, 14 hours a day. We can't just have you driving up an hour back and forth.
Yeah.
So you're just going to sleep on the couch in the place where the producers are staying at like a schwanky. It was like before Silver Lake was Silver Lake.
Right.
It was still like carnicerias and like laundromats and shit. But it rocked.
Yeah.
And I just
Old Silver Lake was awesome.
it was cool. And I
Yeah.
was young enough that like sleeping on a couch was easy peasy. Man.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm making a movie. Who cares?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like that until about 5 years ago. Once I hit 40, I was like, couches make me old.
I can't do it anymore. I'm
Yeah.
too big. I'm too much of a big boy. I'm a princess now.
You're a big boy
Yeah,
princess. Yeah. So when did like UCB enter the picture? Or
Pretty late for me. I'm a pretty late in life UCBer. Like the benefits of Comedy Sportz were that a lot of the people that I was working with, I had known since I was like 16, because you meet them in the high school league, and then you start doing, college team, and a lot of the people that are good move on. And so I was working with a lot of these people, and it was very familial. So there was really no like draw to go to UCB, and there was a cultural despondency between
a bit of a rift or a chasm where like
Yes.
in the Comedy Sportz side, there's a referee who's putting a bag on your head if you swear, and it's very like presentational and short formy and poppy.
Yes.
And on the UCB side, it's long form and it's just a totally different aesthetic and genre.
Yes.
And
And I think, like, from my perspective, like, UCB people shit on us. And then we found reasons to not like what they did as sort of a defense mechanism. And I think it was this familial cultish mentality of, like, don't jump over. Don't jump over. So I spent a lot of time developing my own stuff and doing, like, I had a sketch group out of Comedy Sportz that I did for years. And I think I spent a lot of time just, like, developing my voice there with my peers outside of that space, outside of the improv space, just like YouTube sketch bullshit. And it got to a point where it's like, so I'd done Sunday Company, I'd done Main Company, and it was like,
we need to back up and talk about that. But keep going.
Yeah. And it got to the point where it was like, there was two people who jumped ship, and it did really well for them. I remember Dave Tooney jumping ship and like also being at I.O., and he was doing a ton of shows, and it seemed really good for him. And then my really close friend who I went to high school with, Jessica Williams, jumped ship. She started doing UCB and was just like, boom!
Yeah.
Like, the text, that's why, it's like the story that they tell you that UCB is, the story that they sell, the psychosis that it's like, come here and you go, and then you're in front of everybody, like, be the next Aubrey Plaza.
Yeah.
Like, that happened for her.
Yeah.
Which is rare, but it does happen, and it is the sell of UCB.
It can be a trampoline, especially back in that time. There was sort of like a golden pocket of UCB with a run of people who hit big.
Yes.
And also you have like a show like Parks and Rec comes along that's casting out of there.
And then it's all of a sudden you're like Coltons of the world or like the funniest guy on the biggest show.
Right.
But they're still small. Like,
yeah.
And you're seeing the results where I'm looking around Comedy Sportz and I'm going like, well, the best people here work at Universal.
Right.
You know,
They do the jokey jokes on the tour about the Jaws
which is
shark.
nothing wrong with that.
Nothing
but when you're
wrong.
looking at my goal of like, I want to keep making movies, I want to have like a full career. You start looking around, it's like, oh, the end goal here is to teach, participate in the community, be a community member, and like maybe do a commercial or two.
Right.
You know.
Right. What is the timeline here? So you did the super cool movie, which was called what again? Terry.
That's 2011, so 2021.
Okay. And how old were you at that point? Not to like age. Do you mind?
I was like 20. I was like 20, 21. I filmed at 20. I turned 21 when the movie had come out.
And then how long of a period before you started UCB when you're doing like Sunday Company and Sunday Company, Main Company are at Comedy Sportz?
At Comedy Sportz, yeah. It's not. It's
not Groundlings.
It's very similar name-wise to the Groundlings.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So how long was that?
I did 4 years of college team. Then I did a year of Sunday Company, and then I jumped into main stage. I think I got into main stage around 2013, 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started, like, I'd taken a UCB class in like 2010. Then I like took one in 2012 because there was like the limit of like you'd have to take the first one over again if you
if
waited
too
2
much
years.
Time, yeah.
And then I sort of got to a space with Comedy Sportz. It was very clear that they did not want to like do anything different, long form outside of Comedy Sportz. They weren't interested in like raising me up. They weren't interested in raising up our sketch group. It was like this. It was it was stagnant. This is what it's going to be.
Don't fuck with the formula, kid.
Exactly.
People
100%.
drink Coca-Cola for a reason.
Yeah. We know what sells $25 tickets in 2010. You know.
Yep. And when recently, someone that I know, I can't remember who, was talking about how when they first moved to LA, they were like starstruck by you because of your sketch videos, your YouTube videos.
Yes. Yeah.
What was your? It was a duo.
We were called the Bath Boys. It was a group of unfortunately 5 white guys and one gay dude. You know, like we had one. We did one thing right.
Yeah.
It was and we were just is that classic like. You know, we looked up to the good neighbors of the world and just wanted to make videos. And it started very harmlessly, too. Or it was just like a fucking message on Facebook like, anybody want to shoot a video for fun on Saturday? And then like the 6 people who showed up did that every Saturday for 8 years.
Wow.
You know?
Like a treehouse club meetup. Like,
it was just like, who wants to do this? And then we did it and it was fun. And we're like, should we do it again? And then like, after 6 times of doing it, we're like, well, should we have a name?
Right.
And then it's like, we should have a page. And then boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. Did you learn anything from the sketch writing process that you use now in your comedy? Or like when you said you were kind of discovering and honing your voice, what did you kind of like nail down about your voice?
Confidence. Like what I found was funny, like reps. I think like so much of comedy is reps, just like how much are you doing? And like truly shooting a sketch a week for years, you're learning how to be confident in your decision making. You're taking swings and failing and being like, well, why did that one fail? Why is that bad?
Yeah.
I learned how to like yell in a room and like fight for my ideas and like be stubborn, I think, which I think sometimes is really helpful in Hollywood is to be like, I know how this works and I'm confident that this works. Like, let me prove it to you.
I believe in my idea.
Where I think a lot of people want it so bad that they'll like, just sure, whatever.
Yeah.
Let's do your version.
It's interesting when you first said I learned how to yell in a room. I took that literally. I thought you meant like I learned like how to yell like as a yelly character.
No.
And you mean like how to advocate hard for your thing. Yeah.
I learned how to be like, if you want the joke in, be funnier. Like, which is not maybe the best mentality, but you really had to fight. Like you're dealing with, at the time, 6 of the funniest dudes you know.
Yeah.
Everybody's competitive in a healthy way. And it just got to this point where it's like, well, I want my idea. Or like, that's a bad idea, man. I know you're passionate about it, but it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
So you get into these spaces where it's like, it was like, you know, energy and ego and mania. But the lesson from that is like, I'm sticking up for my idea. I'm sure of it, and I'll go to bat for it.
And my guess is through trial and error and having some flop sketches that you thought would work but didn't, and analyzing why they didn't work over a period of 8 years, you start learning how to sift your own ideas. You have the ability now, when a good idea emerges and you know that it's good, you can feel that it's different than the ones that didn't work.
Totally.
Yeah.
And there's that whole other weird part of like there's immediate feedback.
Yeah.
On YouTube, they'll let you know.
Yeah.
Especially back then. There was not as much like courtesy of being online as there is now, where it
What
was
do you
just
mean?
like,
What's the courtesy now?
I think now it's like you can't like call somebody like a fat F slur. You know what I mean? Like that's you can, and in some circles I'm sure that's existing, but it was the fucking Wild West raw dog days of internet comedy, where it was just like they'll let you know.
Yeah.
They'll let you know exactly how you are bad.
Yeah, get your eyeballs ready for this insult.
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Do you
And in the same way they let you know when you're good, you know?
Yeah. And yeah, I mean it's that binary thing of comedy too. It's like, and it is so subjective. Like when people like it, they love it. When they don't, they're like, yeah, not for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're hiding behind a secret identity online and you can just troll about it, then yeah. Interesting. When you started, so you finally decided to make the leap into UCB.
Yeah.
Did you like it right away, or were you like, eh?
UCB was cool until Harold's, I think,
Yeah.
for me personally.
Yeah.
I thought I understood the material. I had teachers that I felt like were, communicating that I understood the subject material and that I was executing the subject material. And I auditioned for Harold's, got on in 2015, but like I wasn't super into the culture of UCB. I didn't realize that people like auditioned 6 times to get on Harold Night.
Right.
I didn't realize that there was like so much intensity around it. And I also didn't realize that there was like an entire social landscape about being on Harold Night and what that is and what that means and what that's supposed to be. I was just like a kid doing something for fun, and I wanted to stretch my wings and continue to do improv.
Yeah.
And this was like the best place to do that based on my research.
I remember my first knowledge of you as a person was you walking into a Harold audition. It must have been that audition.
Yeah.
And I was like, who the fuck is this kid? You were so funny.
Thank you.
You were so playful and joyful. There was like an aura of exuberance coming off of you, where like even if you're committed as like a serious character in the scene, I could see like the Tinkerbell dust around you.
Thank you.
It's like, this guy is Captain Mirth, and you were wearing like a manatee t-shirt, and I was here he is, It's just the best. Just talk about someone that I instantly was like, I want to be friends with him.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love to hear that.
Yeah.
That's really cool to hear.
It was great.
Yeah, I remember that audition a lot because I was just like, to me, that process was an experiment. What's Harold auditioning like? And I remember getting a call back and be like, okay, yeah, makes sense. I'm good at improv.
Yeah.
They probably want to see more of me. And I remember my Harold didn't get in a beat, didn't even get to initiate either of the group games.
Oh, wow.
It was the people.
Just everyone was so frantic.
They were so fucking hungry.
Yeah.
Can't blame them.
Yeah.
But this is, again, me being like, oh, I didn't understand that this, like, I didn't realize that it made people ravenous. I didn't realize the power of this institution.
Yeah.
And I was learning it firsthand,
Yeah.
And so I think, like, that's not normally how I improvise. I'm a pretty, fair to say, an aggressive improviser. If I want to get in, I will. But so I think, like, I was able to kind of maybe not trick, but it was like I was mature enough as an improviser to be like, yeah, I don't need to get in, man. I'm not expecting to get on a team. Like, do it.
Right.
Get in there.
Yeah.
And I just supported and just played support the whole time. Tried to make a couple patterns and called it a night. And I was really surprised to make it and get on.
It probably worked so much in your favor to have the side-by-side of like your initial audition. We saw you do very funny scenes that sustained, and you played game and character really well. To then just see you be glue on a team and fill in with support where it's needed, but play quietly and not as aggressively probably was like the winning formula. Not that there is one, but it's like it's weird how that can like work in your
You're
favor.
Like, oh, look at the sides of the coin, or like the spectrum or whatever.
And like, whoa, this guy can really be a team player, and he's not tagging people out just to get stage time and say something jokey. He's like really doing what the piece needs. Yeah. Was that first team? Was that Landlord?
Landlord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of good people on that team.
Awesome.
Yeah.
People like Devin Field.
Yeah.
That's where I met Devin Field, like who will be a lifelong collaborator with me. You know?
Right. Well, if he says so.
Yeah, it's up to him.
Collaboration
we'll see. He might have a few notes or whatever, but we'll be fine.
we'll be fine. Talk to me about that. So eventually you your Herald Night experience evolved into you being on Yeti.
Yes.
Which was a Herald team and is now like a graduated team. Yeah.
It was a long process for me. I'm like one of the road dogs of Herald Night, I guess. You know, there's like, I think I was on so many different teams. I did Landlord. I believe my lineage was Landlord into 8 Babies, into Dirt. Dirt and 8 Babies may have been switched. I can't quite remember. I should have done that research into Yeti, but there was different iterations of Yeti where there was, you know, cuts and then people added on. And every time it was so heartbreaking and confusing and difficult.
Some other unseen entity is coming in and breaking up our rock band, and there go my friends, and they're heartbroken, and I can't explain why I stayed, and now I'm with these other people. But I'm also like a little like at the end of the day, like I'm here for me. Right. You know, I'm not playing for me, but like I want to be here. Right. I was betwixt by Franklin. I like 100% was under the spell of Herald Night and worked really, really hard to stay there. And I feel like I was welcomed, and then immediately like, well, stay on. Yeah. Stay on then. And was met with a lot of like, oh, I have to now I have to be a UCB improviser and also be stubborn and still be Jacob Wysocki. Yeah. So I felt like I was dealing with that for my first couple of years where it's like, I mean, I did fucking boot camp for a long time, and I just had to tell everybody, like, I can only straight man. Yeah. Because I was told, like, I was an awful straight man, that I was bad at it, and then if I didn't figure it out, I was going to get taken away from this thing that I'd become, like I said, betwixt with. Yeah. And so all of a sudden, I cared a lot, and I loved collaborating with these people, and I loved the teams, and I more just wanted to stay in the ecosystem. After my third team, I kind of was just like pretty jaded and was just like, well, I can't love you guys the same way that I loved the other ones. Yeah. Because it's probably just going to get cut again. Right. And it did. You know what I mean? Right. Like, yeah. The ash on your cigarette gets longer each time as you get a little more jaded. Yeah. Yeah. But it led to Yeti, which makes it fine. Yeah. Because that was completely random. Yeah. You know what I mean? And talk about team chemistry and just a born collaboration between those 8 brains. I mean, there was a little bit of influence in that, like the Three Princes was a pre-existing group before Yeti was formed. And so who was like on that? Devin Field and Zach Oyama. We had been doing stuff, and like Devin and I worked really well together on Landlord. We started doing sketch and stuff around UCB together as like a duo, and they split us up. And then eventually we got to come back around together, which I was like, what have you been doing the whole time? You know, like we found each other. Why'd you ever stop? Yeah. Why'd you ever stop the magic, man? Yeah. But we found each other again, and like it was a slog, and it was really challenging. And I got into a lot of arguments, and I think like was kind of a bullheaded Herald member. But got on arguments within your own team? No. With like the administration. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, with like the powers that be. Yeah. And it was all like artistically, like it was never on a personal level, but it was just like, well, if you're gonna like tell me how it's done and we can't have a convo about it, like then what are we doing? Yeah. You know? And I just don't agree with like everything that all those rules and stuff. Sure. I think there's a lot of ways to be successful, and you don't have to like the UCB way is not the only way to do it. Yeah. And
I don't know.
Harold Knight at UCB is an interesting beast in that way because they're using it as like a supplemental teaching tool, a companion piece to their way of explaining scene work and Harold, that it's like, and they make it free for students, and they tell every student has to go see 2 Harold shows or whatever during their class. So like in that way, it's like I empathize with why they want it to be done in the way that they are trying to teach, but it also tugs against everything we know as improvisers, which is there's a million ways to skin a cat, and also, is it even a cat?
Yeah,
and how to like honor your own instincts and move at the speed of your own inspiration, and do your style. Do you in general, like pulling UCB as a factor away from the equation, do you like doing Heralds as a form?
Not really. Not really. I think no. I guess not.
Yeah.
Because when I think like what was the most exciting thing about doing Heralds, it's when you do something that you haven't seen before.
Yeah.
Or like when you play with the space in a new way, or you find a cheekier way to do a group game. So you're like, what was exciting is when the form begins to crumble. Right. And you're still successful, for me at least.
Yeah, when we behave like time bandits and push through the wall and enter a new realm of Harold. Yeah.
I think like on its own, I like a structure like that. I like give me 1A, 2B or whatever like that. But I think the problem with my interaction with Harold is that it was so influenced by the institution. And at the point that I had interacted with the institution, the information is so delineated that there's no true consensus. So I'm getting great notes from great people, but they don't all necessarily add up. Yeah. You know?
Right. And even then it's determined by their personal taste or their way of explaining it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess I don't think I like it because when I look at the improv that I do now outside of the institution, none of it's Harold.
Right.
None of it's even remotely close to it. It's much less stringent on form.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, much more, formless montage
Yeah,
heavy.
montage, or we're doing mono scene, which is like very much not a Harold.
Right.
Or I'm doing short form stuff again, too, and that's not a Harold at all. So.
Right. I want to dovetail there.
Sure.
We are now telling our subscribers, our top tier subscribers, get to find out ahead of time who our guest is going to be,
cool.
and they get to ask a question.
That's awesome.
It is awesome, and we love our subscribers, and the shout out
Sub
to
up.
them. Sub up.
W to the subs.
Yes, W, and then a couple more W's, and then add a dot, and then we're cooking with gas. I have to find the questions. Nicole wants to know if your short form work informs your long form work or vice versa. Like, how do those cross pollinate?
Both ways, right? Because you're getting improv just like skill sets and tools and philosophies at the best way to make comedy happen right now. So short form, you're getting a set of tools, and there's a lot of work that goes into making short form good that is separate from the game or gimmick that you were playing. Short form works because you're doing good improv based around some sort of philosophy, whether it's like narrative or game or whatever, and then you throw the thing on top of it, which makes it more entertaining and easier to digest. But UCB does not teach who, what, where,
right,
at all. They don't teach.
They like mention it. Barely. Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't. That's the most important thing in
Yeah.
improv. If you can say, and that's a big thing with short form, is like, you got to get that who, what, where out there. If you're good, one sentence.
Yeah.
Hey, Mom, the house is leaking. Like, where's the dad, the plumber, or whatever? Like,
Yeah.
it's all there. Boom. Can you
Yep.
get it all in? Great example. Subscribe.
Yeah, and now how can we be funny on top of this, or twist
Yes.
it, or do now that we have the base reality, what unexpected thing happens? Yeah.
Yeah. And also, like, object work, hardly touched on in long form.
That is very true.
Which
yeah.
I think if those two skills can like make you so much more successful as a long form improviser, if you would just like, where's our who, what, where? There's so many scenes at UCB where you don't know where they are.
Right.
You don't know what they're doing or who they are to each other. And if you just tighten that, your game's going to shine through better. You're going to have more perspective on what it is, and perspective leads to like opinions, which leads to comedy.
It all becomes three-dimensional.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. And long form, I'm trying to think like if there's direct stuff that I've learned through my journey that has made my short form improv different. I think maybe just like pacing a little bit or
Your short
like,
form scenes are now 28 minutes long.
yeah. Or being okay that a short form scene starts in like maybe silence or tension or an emotional choice or something like that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I definitely think like the tools of short form are much more useful in being added on to the long form tool belt than I don't think you're going to look at your long form tool belt and like find a lot of things to pull out for short form.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that nor should you, because also like the demands of the genre of short form are so much tighter. There's not as much room for like long form by its nature includes like more avenues to explore, more time to do it in, and short form is like we gotta keep this tight.
Yeah.
In 2 minutes, we gotta like get this thing and get out, and yeah.
And overall, short form's a performance piece.
Right.
The entire thing is a performance. It's a show.
Right.
It's like entertainment based, where a Herald is like doing good improv. It's about did you get the connections? Did you play game? It has nothing to do with who's watching it.
Right.
At least when that's what you're taught. Never once at UCB was I ever addressed with the situation of like, well, did they enjoy it?
Right.
And in fact, when people did enjoy it and I wouldn't play by the rules, that would get me in trouble and it would create confusion. And some of the craziest things that I've ever been told as an improviser are because of that math.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Do you do any of those? You don't have to name names, please don't. But like, do any of those things echo in your brain?
I don't understand why everybody thinks you're so funny.
Jesus.
Hey, man, I guess you're not really good at studying comedy then. If you started a comedy theater and you're seeing a dude crack fucking home runs and you don't get it,
Right.
maybe you're a little bit old timer and you need to fucking sit down and stop doing notes.
And stop being mean. Why does that
Yeah.
serve anyone?
I had a lot of bad brush-ins with the old B-man up top. A couple bad ones. Don't personally like the cat.
Yeah.
you know? And I think with the ADs that I was with, I had some kind of, combative moments. That was me being like, it's working. And like, game can look different than you've ever known it to look like.
Right.
If you're so used to game being a rectangle and a square, like, who's to say that it can't be like a 4-dimensional rhombus?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And other people are perceiving it and picking up on it and enjoying it.
Right.
It's just not your tune. It's just not your bag. Or whatever.
Right. But if the players on stage are on the same page and the audience is laughing, and then why can't it be?
And if it's repeatable and if it's
a pattern.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It can look a lot of different ways, but I think it's the influence of the institution.
Yeah. I hear that. The other thing I want to talk about, major thing I want to talk about, is Dropout.
The craziest thing ever.
It's so cool and wonderful.
Yes.
And you all are doing really good work on there.
I'm glad you like it.
Oh, my God.
It's
I'm
unreal.
a subscriber. I'm a yearly subscriber.
Yeah,
it is unreal.
It's unreal.
Let's enter it from how it entered your life and how it came about.
Well, as I had mentioned, there was a little bit of the sketch group world, right? So I was ingrained into this sort of internet sketch world that existed, and there are these companies that existed that made internet comedy, Maker Studios, Defy, Smosh. Basically, it put my toes in a lot of those realms and had also put my toe into the college humor realm. So I was
when you say put your toe in, you're submitting sketches to them, or
I had done some, like, my first interaction with college humor, I hardly remember. It was like some weird game show where I got paid like $100 to be a contestant, and I was recommended through a friend of a friend of a friend kind of thing. But my actual dump into that real world for real was, I came up with like Oyama and I remember doing like a ton of like old school clubhouse shit on El Centro, and he was one of the first people that like was like, come hang out at my place, and like really warm and welcoming guy. I owe a lot to Zach Oyama. He's like one of those beacons,
Yeah.
I could
do it. Yeah.
He was a great friend. Great collaborator. Done a lot for me. But
And what a beautiful, gentle soul. Like truly
Yeah.
a shining, yeah.
so good. He was working at College Humor, and through ever what powers it be, it was like some sketch with Katie Maravich, who's another gem,
Yeah.
another great person. And I just, they needed like some guy to play a shitbag. And it was like Katie's boyfriend, and it was some weird sketch where I got to wear mutton chops, and they like dirtied up my teeth and like put a bunch of fake tattoos on me, and I was just like a wheelhouse character for me.
Yeah.
And did a couple of those and got asked to do a couple of those sketches, and that was like, really fun. And it was like that same thing where I'm not thinking too much of it. It's just like my friends, and I'm interacting with my friends, and I'm having a good time. And I think I had like brushed with Sam and met him just like because I was around. And then Dropout started, and Make Some Noise was kind of like my official foray into it. But I did their Dirty Laundry show, which seems to be a bit of an incubator for them, where it's like, let's test your personality and see how you interact with people.
I'm not familiar with Dirty Laundry. Is this something they air?
That's one of their shows where it's like, come in like with your group of friends, and we're going to have some cocktails, and here's a secret. Who is it? Guess whose secret it is.
Oh, fun.
Really fun, really
Yeah.
simple. Great platform to be funny and
Right.
for improvisers to riff and have a good time. So I did that, and then I got asked to do their Make Some Noise, which is like essentially a short form improvised show.
Yeah.
It's
Which-
like almost a hybrid in a weird way, where it's like some of the scenes you're allowed to go really long, or there's callbacks and stuff like that, but predominantly short form minded.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the short form game of what if we gave you in a long form scene? What if we told you what the game of the scene is?
Yes.
Like here's your premise, basically.
And if you don't do that, or you're clever enough, you can get around. Like,
Yeah.
there's, it's not so stringent
Yeah.
or whatever, but it is exactly what you said. It is that. Like,
It's cool because
it's an in. It's an in.
right? And it
Yeah.
it clues you and the audience in right away. It's also like a fun comedic challenge. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, like how will I play that? Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems to have just absolutely caught fire
It's
during
unreal.
COVID, like on TikTok, right? It just really went viral. I remember.
I'm trying to think, like when I first did it, I want to say it was like 2021, 2022.
Right.
And it was really nice. And then it just started picking up, and it was like, oh, now I'm getting asked to do more than one episode, and now I'm doing the Game Changer show, and now I'm doing their other shows, and like, oh, am I like part of this?
Am I in this
I think I'm
family?
part of this. Oh, whoa, I'm a part of this. And I'm like being respected and like given opportunities, and now you get to do the D&D show. That's the flagship. You know what I mean? It was just like, I just found myself moving through it with excitement, and the opportunities kept coming, and all I did was do what I've always done, which is try and be funny and myself.
Yeah.
And the returns came in, and like the same with like, Oyama, I feel like is a big reason that I'm there. And he probably wouldn't say that or whatever, but it is like he's the big dog there. He was a big dog, and he like, as the kids say, he kind of put me on. And I just, the opportunity, I just tried to seize the opportunity, and I got, part of it feels like luck. Like it's still unreal to me.
Yeah.
It's still unreal to me, because now I get like, I remember being like 20, just like the Comedy Sportz used to have this place called the Stoop, and we would just like get like high, and we would talk about shows, and we were such nerds of improv. And I just remember being with my buddies like, God, what if you made a living? Like, what if you could like pay your bills and do this? And it was like, well, you can't. You can work at Universal.
Right.
You can go be the tram guy.
Right.
And I'm doing that. And I get to go do that in January and pay my bills. And I built it with my friends and people who trust me. And like, that's
Yeah.
who does that happen for? Like, especially in LA, you hear so many stories, and I grew up hearing so many stories. They try, they don't do it. You don't do it. Get a normal job. I got so close. You hear so much of that. And I just never, you just don't ever think that it's going to be you.
Right.
And you do it because you love it.
Right.
And I don't know. It's just like, I can't, there's no words to be one of the few.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to take that for granted,
Well, clearly you're not. Yeah. And this is
It's very special.
It truly is the turn around and look at where you came from. Look at that stoop and that kid on that stoop. And you did it. You built it and you kept going. It is also just such a rare and what an honor to be given a series of life events where you get to you're pursuing it, you're working hard, it is hard, but the whole time it's also joyful. It's the hard work you're doing is not digging graves or climbing skyscrapers. The hard work is believing in yourself, living on no money, facing rejection, having to know who you are despite other people going, I don't get why people think you're funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is hard, but joyful and with friends, and how beautiful.
Yeah. And I mean, thank goodness that I get to look back and it makes sense.
Right. Right.
That's the thing that I don't want to take for granted, is that all the times that I did that midnight show that I wasn't sure about, or did the extra clubhouse, or all that stuff, it makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And all I wanted to be was funny.
Yeah. Well, you are, and always have been.
Yeah.
And fuck that voice. And also, yeah, not a nice person.
No.
And also never liked me. So I'm also
Fuck 'em.
in that boat where
Yeah.
I'm yeah, what?
You're not touring. You're not making money doing what you love to do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Not with your buddies.
Right.
It's, I don't know.
Well, and it speaks to how we work in a subjective industry, in a subjective art form.
Yeah.
There really are I'll watch the same show with my girlfriend, and we both have different people that we like and don't like, or that jokes that we thought were funny and not funny. You know, it's just really, it is subjective. Yeah. But I argue that you are objectively funny.
Thank you.
You really
I
are.
appreciate that.
You transcend. You transcend.
It's the only thing that's ever made sense to me. When I found out that you could be funny,
yeah,
I was like, yeah, that's just what I'm going to do this run.
You did an episode recently of Very Important People that makes me laugh so hard, where you're in the white suit and you're you euthanized whales, just this
I mean, God, that show is you want to talk about dream?
Yeah.
You're going to dress me up and let me riff for an hour?
Right.
What the fuck are you doing? I'd pay you.
Right.
I should pay you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, top-notch hair, makeup, costume.
Emmy award-winning makeup team.
It's
you know
ridiculous.
What I mean? It's unreal.
How many episodes of that have you done now?
I've done 2.
Yeah.
I've done 2.
And I'm so fascinated by this show.
Sure.
I think it's one of the most brilliant ideas.
It's really good.
That just, because, and you, can I ask, I don't want to spoil their secret sauce, but is it really a full surprise to you, the reveal, or do you know anything ahead of time?
The first one, I think I had a little bit more sense of it, because it was I kind of had to put on some of this stuff myself.
Yep.
Because some of it was a little intimate, like tights and stuff, where I couldn't have underwear on or whatever. So I was like, okay, I know for sure I'm putting on yellow tights.
Yep.
I don't know what that means, but I have to see what these are to put them on.
That makes sense.
The second time it was they Greeked out the metal in the trailers. There was metal on the bottom of a stool, and they had that all blacked out.
Wow.
So it was truly even fully dressed. They fully dressed me, eyes closed. I'd have to ask to open my eyes during makeup.
Wow.
to like have a break from having my eyes closed.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Right.
But I would like to blink for a minute, and they'd like move all the stuff away.
So
they're
that you
like
couldn't
purposely
see
trying to make you think you're something else while you're in the chair. They're like, all right, bring in the fish. We're going to put the staple of the fish on. Or like she was like rubbing feathers on my face to make it seem like other sensations were happening.
Wow.
And so it truly is like I'm looking in the mirror and I'm being like, oh, this is what this is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that like? That experience of being spun around and suddenly looking and you fully look like a completely different person?
It's pretty wild, right? Because it's not just that. I have the pressure of I now have to go do like a taped comedy Bang Bang. You know what I mean? Like
for an hour. Yeah.
So it is like some of the most manic I'll ever feel. But it's based in artistry, so it feels good, and it's like a hot oven in your head, and there's so much, and like the producer have an idea of what I should do. I have an idea of what I want to do. Vic has probably preconceived notions because they're aware of what this costume is. Like,
yeah.
Is the first idea the best idea? Is the best idea the last idea? You're thinking about all of that, but also having to be like, well, let's test out some guys.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And you're testing out guys on camera.
Yes.
So that's its own show too. Like I loved, it's so compelling watching you as that guy be like, this guy's a piece of shit. I know that. And like try on different voices. Yeah.
Building it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's I think a wonderful insight into an artist's process. You are speaking aloud the things that we all think when we're like driving to Bang Bang and being like, what character do I want to do? And trying on like a different vibe or whatever.
Yeah.
But here you're all of that is on stage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's very little of that experience that I would say is edited around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That
like,
comes across in a good way.
Like what you don't see is me being like, I think I'm going to do this to the producers, and like me checking them and being like, it's like that's what you don't see.
Yeah.
And then like maybe them telling Vic like he's going to do this basic premise, or this is his name.
Right.
Like that's probably all that you don't see.
Right.
But we're both truly blind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like 99% just on camera.
No person.
Vulnerable.
There's very few people that I feel like could do that.
Yeah.
And I would feel comfortable doing that with. And Vic is like,
they're a genius. Like a full-blown certified
and just a person
genius.
that I was randomly placed on a team with.
Yeah.
If you think about the cosmicness of that,
right.
a full stranger from another world now is one of my closest, most dearest collaborators.
Yeah.
And we work really well together.
Yeah.
And it was just two people doing their own thing, and we intercepted.
For the listeners who don't know, the two of them are on Yeti together,
yes.
which was a Herald team. But yeah, and Devin and Zach Oyama and Allie Beardsley, just all these. Yeah.
Lou, Victoria, Talia, I think everybody's graced the Dropout stage, or will by the time the next season of Make Some Noise comes out. So
right.
like, we've all gotten in the mix. Yeah.
When you're faced with this challenge of like you open your eyes, you see this person, do you feel like you have a sense of how your process works? Like we're being real left brain and retroactive about this, but like does like a voice bubble up first? Does a notion of their story bubble up first? What's hitting your brain in what order?
It's probably like, like a rush through the door. There's like 5 things that I'm thinking about, and it's like who's the loudest or who's the fastest to kind of come through the door. When I was doing Comedy Sportz, I took a class. One of the most influential classes I think I've ever taken was with this brilliant improviser named Jill Bernard. The guy have a great book, but it was a character class, and it was like, for all intents and purposes, now that I look back on it, kind of just like a kind of frou-frou arts college character clown walk around like, now walk with your nose, and they just digested it down in a way. And I'd never been in a frou-frou space like that. It was always just kind of like I didn't do theater school. I didn't do acting school or anything like that.
It was a lot of that.
It was a
lot of like walk the space and now lead with your pelvis.
Totally.
Now lead with your eyebrows. Yeah.
And Jill talked a lot, or at least I resonated a lot with like a character who's pinched in the shoulder is different than a character who's pinched in the hip.
Pinched.
And a character who's squeezed is different than pinched. And a character who's relaxed and pinched is different than a character who's relaxed and squeezed. And like, where does it go? And what what is it?
Yeah.
And it's the first. It was kind of almost annoyance style. Not her. She wasn't presenting it this way, but it reminded me of like, it's the first thing, and the first thing's right, and you have to stick with it.
Double down on that. Yep.
So I think a lot about physicality, I think, is probably where I live first. It's like, how are the shoulders? Where's my nose? What is this?
Yep.
And then it's probably voice. And then voice and body leads to perspective or point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's probably like backstory narrative from there.
The specifics, the verbal specifics come last.
Mm-hmm.
And do you feel like the character is actually speaking and you're kind of channeling it? Or do you have a comedy writer brain in there going like,
I'm the guy.
You're the guy, yeah.
That's what's fun, right? It's like, I'm the guy.
Right.
When I'm doing improv, like, I'm as thin as the character is, or as feminine, or I have juicy tits or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I'm that.
Yep.
And I'm not me. And like, I don't know, it's playing, it's as pretend as I can get.
Yeah.
But Jake always shows himself in one way or the other. And that's the artistry of like, what do I think is funny, or where do I pop up?
Yeah.
And how do I make it me?
Where do you pop up? What does make it you? What do you think defines the spine of your
being naughty? Mischievousness, playfulness, the unexpected, being speediest, being fast. I think is another thing that I'm really like, I value is like, if I can be the fastest, there's something cool about that to me. So yeah, I don't know if I answered the question, but
all of that is rooted in your childhood, I see. Like I don't want to study, I want to wait till the last minute and get away. And also like I don't like being told what to do. I'm going to do the opposite.
Yep.
All of these ingredients were in your soup pot when you were a kid before you reached this, and now it gets to like make a delicious soup.
And I was an only child, and I would deeply play pretend with myself.
Oh,
you know what I mean? So I feel like there's a little bit of that there too as well.
What pretend were you playing? What were
I was
those
like,
worlds?
Hacker, like computers. I'm in mainframe. Like,
oh God, I love that.
I would bring out like 6 different keyboards and just like look at a grainy wood wall fence and just be like, zoom in, like we're gonna find him. Like,
yeah,
that was a big one.
War Games meets Minority Report.
Yes. Yeah. Or like, we're tracking the dinosaurs. Like, we've got them on GPS.
Hold on to your butts. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm going to throw you another question from a subscriber.
Awesome.
William wants to know favorite improv moves, and then the follow-up is past favorite improv moves. Interpret that as you will, like moves that others have made, things that were fun to be a part of.
I love to be surprised. I don't think that's like novel in any way, but the beauty of playing with like a team is now like known. We know each other so well as Yeti. Is that like I'm still getting constantly surprised, and I'm working with people whose brains work so different than me, and they're bringing things to the table that my brain would never get to, but is very much the best or the funniest.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I just kind of revel in that of like, I'm surrounded by these people who are like making the funniest choice, and I could never get there. I could never ever get there.
Favorite is it's a tough word because it implies a hierarchy.
Yeah.
But what's one that delighted you or surprised you recently that just sticks in your brain when you scan for like something that came out of nowhere from someone you were like,
man, we were just doing this mono scene that was like this weird tonal, like almost like a long form Folgers commercial during Christmas. And just the whole family was like doing a normal sort of like the boy came back from Christmas sort of thing, but everybody was really talking about Folgers and like how great it was.
The whole mono scene was a Folgers commercial?
Yes.
God damn it, that's so funny.
And Devin came out pretty far into the back end, which I think is like so mature, and that's real artist shit. If you can like come in 13 minutes into a mono scene is so fucking good.
Yep.
And he just was a mom, and he just was like, the house burned down because of a Folgers incident like 6 years ago. Like, what's happening? And I would never think of that.
Right.
And it made like saying it out loud like seem like really simple math, where it's like the inverse of what everybody was doing or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was just like, my instinct would be like, well, everybody's having fun doing kickflips doing the Folgers commercial.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to go do kickflips with my friends. And he just was like, what if we're on a fucking vert? Like,
yeah. What if, right. What if this whole thing
Yeah.
took place in a Black Mirror universe?
Totally.
What's Black Mirror Folgers commercial?
And it added these, it was brilliant though. It's funny. It adds stakes. It's like, how do we interact with that now?
Yeah.
And like the tone can't, like it's not fully inverting the tone. We still have to live in this sort of like commercial world that we've decided upon. But now that we have this reality, and I don't know, it just gave like the perfect amount of propulsion. It gave the perfect amount of sort of like stakes and stuff like that.
It lets the audience in on a secret,
Mm-hmm.
like that informs. It injects comedy, even if you play the rest of it exactly how you've been playing it. Now we know that you're being cheesy and corny despite this dark reality.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or maybe in a weird way, it's the secret justification.
Sure.
They're smiling past the trauma.
Exactly. Right. It informs what's behind all of this stuff, and
I love that shit. I love shit where it's like, this is actually the world we're in.
Yes.
And it's not a cop-out. It's not a rug pull.
No.
It's a reinforcement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm of the mind, and especially the further down my improv road I get, the more I love this. I'm of the mind that even a rug pull isn't necessarily a rug pull. It can be a beautiful gift. Like I teach this exercise where I have people, they're just doing like 2 or 3 line scenes. Mm-hmm. The first person says just something boring and normal, the meeting starts in 5 minutes, here's your paperwork or whatever. And then the responder's job is to make what they just said unusual somehow. How is what they just said unusual? So they can be like, yeah, the building's on fire, Carson. I think, we have bigger issues. And now we know that this character, the other one is like just so hyper-focused on meeting or whatever. Or it's, but the unusual thing can be anything.
Yeah.
It can be,
To me, that feels like, and this is just semantics, feels like a frame.
Yeah.
It's a frame. A rug pull to me is like, so that's the reality. And then somebody comes in and goes like, my toy cars are having an argument. And it's like the people are toys or something like that, where it's like you're completely denying any reality or stakes or emotional vulnerability of these people. You're like, and cut. But then the audience doesn't buy it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or
Right.
It's like, oh, the audience actually preferred that we're living in this reality and that this reality was real.
Gotcha. You're saying a rug pull is like a total denial of like the reality that's
not
happening.
Not a perspective shift, not an informant, not informing where we are.
Right.
Being like, we're actually not where you thought we are. Or we're
and
not doing or who or what you thought we are.
And that doesn't exist. And versus the Folgers move, which is it's subversive, but it's like looking at it from a different angle. It's a reveal of a bigger reality, but the reality is bigger, not the reality is totally different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah.
The rug pull in the Folgers one would be like, why is everybody talking like this is a Folgers commercial?
Yes.
Because the audience loved the tone. We loved performing in the tone.
Right.
Yes, that is a very viable joke, but then what?
Right.
That's the rug pull.
Yep.
Then what? Usually
Then
a rug
what?
pull leads to, well, then what?
Yeah. Our universe just ended. Now we have to start over.
And
now
I have to work to make you look good now? Because that's the rules and I have your back? Okay.
Right.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. I guess I'll have your back after you just slapped mine with a knife in your hand.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Interesting. I need to readjust my vocabulary then. Yeah. Like
Sure.
calling that a frame that's like, but yeah, sometimes students are like, but that's a denial of what they said. And to me, it's like, no. Adding tension or adding a reason, like, okay, right this way to the exhibit. Marcy, you need to put some pants on, And now it's like, oh, no, but it's part
Building
of the
blocks.
experience.
Yes.
Now this
yeah.
character gets to justify that. Yeah. Weird discoveries that help inform it. Yeah. Building blocks. I like that.
I love that. It's
Yeah.
also like such a good tool to just be like 7 minutes into a scene and be like, what's up with that hat?
Right.
And then describe it or whatever, you know?
You and I played an Ask Hat recently where it like revealed like halfway through the scene that you had this like giant fedora or something. And it made me
Sounds
laugh.
like me.
God,
Yeah.
it was so
yeah,
funny.
I love
and,
hat
like,
work.
The gentle tilt of the brim.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
That was a fun one.
That was fun. Yeah, you're so fun to play with.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah. For part 2 of this episode, go to yesalso.supercast.com. If you like this podcast, you can support us and get a ton of bonus content over at yesalso.supercast.com. If you have a question about improv that you'd like us to answer on one of our future Q&A episodes, send it on over to yesalsopod@gmail. Remember to follow us on Instagram at yesalsopod and keep sharing us with your improv communities. We love the love. If you're a theater who would like to host us for a live recording and improv show, let us know at yesalsopod@gmail.com. A huge shout out to Ryan Rosenberg, who produced this thing with his generous help and his unlimited knowledge about all things podcast. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. No, we won't, Susie. That's not how podcasts work. They will see. They won't even see us. They will listen to us. So it's actually the opposite of both things you said. Thanks for listening, and you will listen to us next week. Maybe. We don't know.